It says here, a vote to strike could be unprecedented for the WNBA. There has never been a work stoppage in the history of the league. Industry insiders have a range of opinions on the likelihood and merits of a potential strike, particularly one so long before the season starts, as well as the union's apparent strategy. We are so far apart as the union claims the negotiations have not gone well, and you have the right to strike at any point. Why are you not striking? One industry says, if it's all negative and no progress, what are you waiting for? It's okay to strike to me, one agent told ESPN. In some cases, walking away saying no is a really good part of strategy and negotiation, but not everyone believes the league will be more willing to come close to the players' demands if threat strike is looming. NBA Commissioner Adam Silver is going to step in and say, ladies,
the current discussion surrounding the WNBA collective bargaining agreement centers on potential labor disputes and the influence of rising stars like Caitlin Clark on the league's future. Industry experts are weighing in on whether a work stoppage could actually occur. A potential walkout would mark a historic first for the WNBA, as the organization has never experienced any interruption in play throughout its entire existence. Those close to the situation hold varying perspectives regarding how likely such an action might be, especially considering negotiations could break down months ahead of the upcoming campaign. People familiar with the matter are questioning the union's approach. The sentiment from some quarters suggests confusion about timing. If discussions have truly deteriorated as badly as reported and the right to walk off exists at any moment, why hasn't action been taken already?
Demands of threat strike is looming. NBA Commissioner Adam Silver is going to step in and say, ladies, we're not moving on this and this and this, but we will do this and this, and then we're going to get a deal done early January. Another agent predicted. Nonetheless, one common belief among insiders is that for all the potential strike talk, the players in the league understand the importance of having a 2026 season, so it's still unlikely games we missed. I think a work stoppage by technicality is possible. Another league source added, I'm not worried about this point of missing any games. So basically, it sounds like there is still that possibility that a work stoppage happens in a way of like...
The skepticism centers on waiting when things appear so negative. One representative speaking to ESPN noted that walking away can sometimes serve as an effective tactic during contract talks. However, not everyone shares the view that ownership will bend significantly toward what the athletes are requesting. There's an expectation among some that NBA Commissioner Adam Silver will eventually intervene, drawing clear boundaries on certain matters while offering concessions on others, potentially leading to an agreement by early January. Still, a widespread consensus exists among those tracking the situation. Despite all the tough talk about potential walkouts, both sides recognize how critical having a 2026 campaign will be, making it improbable that any contests would actually be canceled. One source familiar with league operations suggested that while a technical work interruption might occur, there's minimal concern about actually missing scheduled games at this juncture.
Happens in a way of like, they go on strike in January, and then there's a CBA finished in March. Which, look, there's always a chance of that happening. There is always going to be a chance of something along the lines of that happening, because at the end of the day, we are looking at situations where, if maybe like it gives them their real chance to.
The scenario being floated involves a possible walkout happening around January, followed by an agreement reached by March. Such sequences aren't impossible, as these situations always carry some degree of uncertainty. The dynamic at play involves strategic positioning, even if taking action during January holds little practical significance given the football season. Demonstrating willingness to actually follow through on threats could fundamentally alter the negotiating landscape. Showing serious intent, regardless of timing, could shift the entire conversation and provide genuine leverage that changes how discussions unfold going forward. The central sticking point revolves around financial distribution, particularly how revenues get divided.
It gives them their real chance to negotiate. It gives them their real negotiating power. If it's like, look, we'll do it. We'll go on strike. Even if obviously striking in January means fuck all. Even if it means absolutely nothing, they've at least shown, okay, yeah, we'll strike. We don't really care necessarily about you guys. You guys think we're faking it? No, we'll strike. We'll strike. And then obviously
the organization appears unwilling to compromise on this fundamental issue, especially given the specific framework the athletes are proposing. Every analyst who has examined the situation has concluded that the particular revenue-sharing model being sought simply won't materialize. The reality is straightforward. If neither side moves on this core disagreement, a work stoppage becomes virtually guaranteed. The comparison to NBA structures reveals important distinctions. Teams in the men's league strategically structure deals knowing that cap figures will evolve. Organizations prefer loading compensation toward early contract years rather than later ones because it provides advantages under cap management rules as the ceiling rises.
And then obviously things completely change. Things change very much so when we're talking about this if the players go on any sort of strike. So then obviously, look, we're talking about this and we're looking at this in a whole different scenario. And who knows, maybe the players will try to force their hand. The one thing we know is the league is never going to budge on the revenue split thing.
The fundamental difference lies in what WNBA athletes appear to be seeking, a continuously adjusting cap that shifts annually based on incoming revenues. Reports suggest they desire yearly cap modifications tied directly to league income. Some interpretations indicate the proposal involves having compensation paid throughout the season with additional payments distributed afterward based on actual revenue performance. The complication arises from the league's current financial reality. The operation continues running at a deficit, and implementing the proposed system would essentially guarantee continued losses, extending for at least another decade. While franchise valuations have increased, there's an important distinction between ownership groups directly controlling teams and the 58% of stakeholders who aren't directly managing franchises.
Budge on the revenue split thing. Basically, especially the way it sounds like the players want the revenue split to be done. I think everybody has like every insider has spoken about it, and they're like, the way the players want the revenue split done is never going to happen. Like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't, like, there is a guarantee of there being a strike if the players are not budging on the way the revenue split is. And by that, I mean basically the players.
These different interests create complex dynamics when discussing long-term financial sustainability. Despite these complications, the prevailing sentiment suggests the season will proceed as scheduled. Those monitoring the situation closely aren't expressing significant alarm regarding long-term outcomes. The reasoning centers on practical considerations. Deliberately canceling what could arguably be the most significant campaign in league history would require intentional self-destruction. Unless deliberate undermining occurs, the season will happen. The only scenario preventing play would involve purposeful sabotage.
Basically, the players, whatever about the NBA, people are like, oh, the NBA players want they want the NBA revenue split. And it's like, if you guys look at the NBA, there's a reason why, say, 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the line, teams are offering certain contracts being like, okay, yeah, this percentage of the salary cap this year, but it becomes a lower percentage next year, and people want to front load contracts instead of back loading contracts, because if you front load contracts, it really helps you against the salary cap, things like that.
That level of certainty exists around this situation. The eventual resolution likely involves compromise from the athlete's side. While initial positioning suggests minimal flexibility, the probable outcome mirrors NBA precedents, establishing a specific revenue percentage for the initial year with predetermined incremental increases annually. This approach offers protection if growth exceeds expectations while providing stability should expansion slow. Such a structure allows management to plan financially, understanding projected income and expenses. Various other mechanisms can be incorporated into this framework to address additional concerns.
Backloading contracts, because if you front load contracts, it really helps you against the salary cap, things like that. And the players, by the sounds of things, I could be wrong, by the sounds of things, the WNBA players want an ever-fluctuating salary cap. They want their salary cap to change year by year based on the revenue they're bringing in. They want the salary cap to change year by year, and there's nothing like that's certain, but by the looks of things, it sounds like they want year on year salary cap fluctuation. And I've read some places where their interpretation of it is
the negotiations continue unfolding as both parties work toward finding common ground before the next campaign begins. The stakes remain high, given the league's trajectory and growing popularity, making resolution increasingly important for all involved. The current discussion centers around Kelsey Mitchell, the Indiana Fever player who recently posted a mysterious social media message that almost definitely wasn't related to basketball. Yet supporters have been absolutely panicking about it. Indeed, fans have genuinely been panicking. The situation involves Mitchell sharing something cryptic online, and the basketball community has spiraled into worry mode about her potential departure from Indianapolis. Regarding concerns about Mitchell potentially leaving the Fever, supporters really shouldn't stress too much.
Kelsey Mitchell in regards to like her leaving the Fever. Because could Kelsey Mitchell leave the Fever? Yeah. There is a chance. But like, what are the odds Kelsey Mitchell leaving the Fever? Her leaving, 10%. Her leaving in free agency, 0.5%. And the only reason I give it 0.5% is that the Indiana, after the DeWanna Bonner situation, I believe the Indiana Fever front office are spineless.
Could she depart from the organization? Technically possible, but the probability remains incredibly low. The chances of Mitchell exiting stand at roughly 10%. Her odds of walking away through free agency? Approximately 0.5%. That minuscule percentage exists solely because the Indiana franchise appears weak-willed following the Sophie Cunningham and Diana Taurasi incidents.
I believe the Indiana Fever front office are spineless. And if Kelsey Mitchell demands to walk in free agency, it seems like they're the type of team that will just, instead of coring her and getting something for her, they might be a team that just let her walk. It is what it is, and it's an unfortunate one, but I still think there's a 0.5% chance that this organization is just spineless. But I will say it is very, very unlikely.
The front office seems like the type that might allow a player to simply depart instead of using their core designation to retain control and acquire assets through trade negotiations. This remains unfortunate, but there's still that tiny 5% possibility the organization demonstrates such spinelessness. However, the likelihood stays extremely remote. Consider what losing Mitchell actually means. Many don't comprehend what a potential trade package would entail. A deal involving Mitchell could genuinely improve the Fever roster.
It is very, very unlikely. And look, if you lose Kelsey Mitchell, and Kelsey Mitchell is like, okay, yeah, I want to go anywhere. Like, I don't think people realize what the trade package for Kelsey Mitchell looks like. Like, a trade package for Kelsey Mitchell could very well make the Fever better. Again, at the end of the day, there's a big word in that statement, and it's could. And it's could. So, like, if Kelsey Mitchell wants to leave, if she's dead set on leaving, and you go to Chicago Sky, okay.
That statement contains an important qualifier, though. Could. The outcome depends entirely on execution. If Mitchell genuinely wants out and sets her sights on Chicago, the conversation becomes interesting. The Sky would need to surrender Ariel Atkins, who represents a comparable replacement for Mitchell. Both players currently hold core designations. Once Atkins gets traded, the Fever could offer her a reduced contract rather than the Supermax, similar to how Brianna Stewart and Sadu Sabali didn't accept maximum deals. Chicago would need to include their 5th draft selection in any negotiation.
And you go to Chicago Sky. Okay. You're giving us Ariel Atkins, who's a like-for-like replacement for Kelsey Mitchell. You're not paying her a max. Your core, or I say no, they'd have to core Ariel Atkins. But I just say they're cored. They're both cored. But Ariel Atkins is like, look, she's on a core deal, but if you trade her, you can core her, but you don't have to offer the contract. Like, Stewie didn't take a Supermax. Neither did Satu. Go core her, and then go trade her for Kelsey Mitchell.
Perhaps the deal involves trading second-round selections too, with Chicago sending their pick around 17th while receiving the 10th selection back. Alternatively, the straight-up exchange becomes Atkins plus the 5th pick for Mitchell. Maybe Dallas enters the conversation, offering their first-round selection instead, or the deal doesn't happen. If Chicago declines, including Camila Cardoso, then Zaza James becomes part of the package along with Dallas's 2027 selection, plus another 2027 pick from Chicago, and a pick swap arrangement for 2028. Something substantial like that becomes necessary.
Go core her, and then go trade her for Kelsey Mitchell. We're going to offer her 2/3 of a max, and you're also giving us a 5th pick. And that's what we're doing. And maybe you give us a 2nd rounder and we give you the 10th pick. So you give us a 5th pick and your 2nd rounder, which is like the 17th pick, and you go and give us the 10th. Or maybe it's just straight up Ariel Atkinson 5. For Dallas,
Mitchell ranked as arguably the third or fourth best player across the league last season, trailing only A'ja Wilson and Breanna Stewart. If she demands a departure, Indiana will command an absolutely massive return package. No negotiation exists where the Fever don't receive an all-star caliber player plus draft capital. That's simply the reality of any scenario involving Mitchell requesting a trade. The truth remains that Mitchell probably doesn't want to leave Indianapolis.
Atkinson 5. For Dallas, you give us 1 or we're not making that trade. Or if you want to, we don't want Arike, go and give us Zaza James. Go give us Zaza James, your 2027 pick and the 2027 pick from the Dallas Wings, and a pick swap in 2028. Go give us something like that. Like Kelsey Mitchell was what, the third best player, fourth best player in the W after AT, A'ja Wilson and Fee. She was the fourth.
Everything about her actions suggests she desires remaining with the Fever. Her entire career demonstrates loyalty to this franchise during terrible periods. She endured the organization when it was completely dysfunctional. She persisted through the absolute worst times, including the 5-win campaign. Mitchell stayed when the team collected consecutive first overall selections following a second and fourth pick in prior years.
And Fee. She was the fourth best player in the W last year. Like, if Kelsey Mitchell wants to leave, the Indiana Fever are going to get the Godfather offer. They are going to get no ifs, ands, or buts about it. An offer of an all-star level player plus a pick. And that's the reality situation if Kelsey Mitchell is adamant on leaving. But the reality is that it's unlikely Kelsey Mitchell.
She missed playoff appearances throughout 7 years of her career. Currently, she stands among the top 4 players in franchise history. It seems unlikely she'd abandon the situation before seeing what develops next. The Fever organization probably doesn't want to move her either, despite hypothetical discussions about other players potentially fitting better or surpassing her production. Reality dictates that nobody has witnessed Mitchell, Caitlin Clark, and Aaliyah Boston playing together under competent coaching for any meaningful duration.
It's unlikely Kelsey Mitchell wants to leave the Fever. It is unlikely. Everything about Kelsey Mitchell shows that she wants to, has pointed towards her wanting to be a member of the Indiana Fever. It's pointed towards the fact that she was with this organization when it was a shit show. She's been with this organization in its darkest time. She was there for the 5-win season. She was there when they got back-to-back number 1 overall picks, coming off a number.
If Indiana gives up on that trio before confirming it won't succeed, even risking losing Mitchell without compensation, that would be foolish. Many claim WNBA organizations avoid deadline trades, but why not? If the fit isn't working, a deadline deal for another All-Star becomes feasible. The Fever could probably acquire multiple future first-round selections plus a quality wing player. If the combination works, Indianapolis possesses the league's premier trio,